Well, I want to put this video out as not really addressing one specific topic, but it's basically the folly of mankind in general. Probably a lot of people don't know this, but Winston Churchill has been once attributed to having been said that it is many times the common man will stumble upon the truth at least once in his lifetime, and after he stumbles upon the truth, he hurriedly picks himself up, dusts himself off, and runs in the other direction because he's in a rush. He's in a rush. So, just like anything else, people seem to be wrapped around giddy little rumors or whatever you want to call it sometimes. I mean, there's a lot of, actually, I could tell you, not to criticize YouTube per se, but it's basically the audience maybe sometimes. But if you look at what is most popular on YouTube, it's actually video games, and you think to yourself, what does that actually do? I mean, it can have some function. It's not to say it doesn't have any function, but usually it's like, it's wrapped around entertainment per se. But, one of the things actually, if you look back in time, the war on currents is a very interesting thing that people were sure that their side was right and the other side was wrong. And they all included the best scientists and engineers. This was actually between Thomas Edison and, Westinghouse Tesla, if you want to call it that way, about Thomas Edison being on the side of DC current being much safer, the low voltage DC. And maybe that'll be coming back into play again if we have solar panels individually powering houses, and we don't need to have the voltage stepped up. We could just use 12-volt appliances like in RVs and stuff in our houses if we don't need to use outside sources. But be that as it may, the way it turned out back in the 1870s or late 1800s, you had 1886, you had George Westinghouse being built. And actually, I'm going to get onto a lot of topics on this because, really the point of this video is the truth gets out partially, but then again, the truth doesn't get out, not necessarily because of the elite per se. I mean, there's always things about, talking about the elite or J.P. Morgan or what he did with Tesla or whatever. But it's actually the people themselves. It really is the people themselves are at fault. Because I'm going to actually explain a couple simple things. And I'm telling you the truth, I've already gotten to the point where I'm not going to drop all the dimes on some of the best gems I know. Because of the type of people that are out there. I'm really not going to. I'm going to tell you some things, but I'm not going to tell you everything. That's just how it is. Because I've already got to the point where I know what it feels like a little bit now to be a Jew. Even though I'm not a Jew, maybe I'm part Jewish, I don't know, maybe that's something else I was digging into my lineage. But the thing is, when you look at what happened back in the late 1800s, you had George Westinghouse was bringing out the alternating current system that used a transformer to step up voltages for long-distance transmission, then it stepped it back down for indoor lighting, directly competing with the market for the Edison system. And you know what happened. I mean, Edison was frying elephants in big demonstrations to show you how dangerous, the alternating current system was. But you know what won out? We know what won out, but we also don't know how much we probably missed out on because it wasn't just J.P. Morgan. It's basically the people themselves, like with the Wardenclyffe Tower. We maybe could have had free electricity everywhere on the planet. And of course, there's people that are engineers and scientists today that would say that's total hogwash. And I'll tell you that, one person I do respect a great deal, and I'm not going to say I know what the hell he knows, is John Bedini. And you can look him up on YouTube, and if you're a fan of this type of technology, you should look into some of the things he's got out there, because I realize even as a technician, when he was back as a technician in the medical field, there was a lot of things he could not discuss, and I'm not going to discuss them either. I hinted at some things, and I think some things are useful, but I'm not even going to give that information out, to tell you the truth, because I've been inspired not to. But the thing is that many times experts will disagree with each other. and it becomes a marketing play. Now, everybody has to play that marketing game, because if they don't play that marketing game, they're definitely going to go under. I mean, there's no doubt about it. Everybody has to play the marketing game, which means there's sometimes exaggerations in the marketing game, or best case scenarios, we would call it that way. But the thing is, it doesn't necessarily mean that something's good or bad. But I'll tell you that in the case of, what we know now, but if you were back at the time in the 1800s when they said, George Westinghouse versus Thomas Edison, you'd be looking at Thomas Edison's demonstration saying, oh my God, it is so dangerous. Oh, we can't have that. Oh my God. Oh. But you know what? There's a lot of stuff that even goes along with this technology, because even when this electricity was brand new, they were making healing devices with it. Tesla talked about the violet ray. People have labeled that a quack device, but as of 1952, but they were using it like a hell of a lot back in the medical field for decades. Yeah, they were all quacks back then. So how are you going to trust? How are you going to trust, a doctor actually if, they were practicing medicine for umpteen decades, and now what they were telling you was absolute truth is now labeled as quackery. Oh, because now it's all freaking safe and all figured out. Now, I do put a lot of videos on this type of stuff, but I'm going to tell you that the truth is never going to get out there, because it is actually the problem with the people. The majority of the people are just not going to get the truth. They get into rumors, and they will not actually. Because I can tell you, I realize what drives the majority of people. It's like a cult. It's a cult. It takes its own life, and the people themselves are their own worst enemies. Just going right back to that thing with what I talked about, Winston Churchill. But, if you actually get into some other things about the truth, and, what a lot of people are actually seeking all the time is money. And a lot of times there's too much in a rush, because they're always seeking money, to actually find the absolute truth. A lot of times people don't have any time for spirituality, because they're always in a rush, because they got to do this, they got to do that, they got to do this, they got to do that. But a lot of times they were, what that does come back is that it haunts them. It does haunt them. And I could tell you that, and I put this out on other videos, and to me, it's beyond important. It's beyond important. Because, and it was actually, they got a field now, they call it, I guess it was Dr. Linus Pauling. He's not a medical doctor, but he's a two-time Nobel Peace Prize winner. He coined the term orthomolecular medicine. I put videos out on this, but the thing is, I think these type of things are freaking far more important than anything. But a lot of people go, where's the proof? Where's the proof? Well, there is a lot of proof, and actually there's been a lot of applications on people for going back decades, which you could talk about William Frederick Kleiner, MD, medical doctor, who used simple vitamin C intravenous in large quantities to cure, the word cure, 60 out of 60 polio patients well before the Jonathan Salk vaccination came out. And by the way, when that vaccination came out, it was actually not safe at all. There were some deaths, and actually even of people of the children that were the developers of that vaccination. I can tell you right now, even a lot of the healthcare improvements we've had over to mankind over all the years, where a lot of it's actually been from, not necessarily medicine, but sanitation. But people want to actually look at that truth. If you can go back to the 20s and 30s, a lot of people used to use outhouses. They didn't even have running toilets in their house. They might have had running water, or they might have had a shared bathroom back in even the 20s and 30s. Sanitation has actually destroyed a lot of disease. And I put out a lot about, and you can say, well, actually theoretically, and I could say it's a little more than theoretically, because some scientists, will say I think it's very solid, but high quantities of vitamin C could probably greatly extend life. And that's something Dr. Linus Pauling talked about. But he did not actually take anywhere near the same amount of quantities that Dr. William Frederick Kleiner was recommending. Or there's a group of people out there, Dr. Levy, Dr. Cathcart, but there's a number of them out there, and I've got the books on their medicines. But I personally I don't even want to say what I'm taking because it seems like they don't want you to tell people that, but do it tell you. I don't even say. I already said it on one short video one time. I'm not going to say exactly how much of this stuff I'm taking. But the thing is that it's been known that, for instance, you got all these high quality medicines and things and antitoxins, and you might have remedies for rattlesnake bite and things like that. But what do? They don't give people intravenous vitamin C, although it would work for rattlesnake bite venom. Why don't they do it? It's called money. You see, a lot of people will never look, but it's like sometimes people are seeing conspiracies where there's no conspiracies. That's the other side of it. So really the bottom line is the people themselves are their own worst enemy. I could tell you that even coconut oil will, in many cases, cure dementia. But, you won't see this prescribed in the medical field. Because where's the proof? Well, there is some proof, and there's some doctors that advocate this. They also show that many times that statins will cause problems in the brain function. Statin drugs that are prescribed in the medical field like candy half the time because people have cholesterol. But cholesterol is absolutely necessary for brain function. As a matter of fact, ketones are very vital for your brain function, but they do not actually go ahead and say, let's raise your ketones. They used to do this back in the 20s. They used to do a lot of stuff back in the 20s that was smarter in a lot of ways. Actually, if we combined our sanitation methods that we have today, which is really why the medical community looks so damn good, is that because we have such damn good sanitation, the spread of disease and germs has basically been stopped by that, more than anything, over medicine itself. Yeah, that's a bold claim, but that's the truth. But, like I said, I'm not going to put every truth out here because I don't really care about getting into arguments with people, and I'm going to keep the truth hidden. Because there's actually some other things I know beyond what I've ever said on here, and, it's been, well, I'm pretty sure it's freaking solid research, but, like, I've actually put some other things out there, and they're videos that don't get a lot of attention, but I dropped a few dimes already on certain things. But the thing is that coconut oil is one of your miracle foods. It's actually all over YouTube, too, and a lot of different videos, too, that it's a miracle food. It's one of the top 10 superfoods, at least in one of their groups every time. But, the thing is, a lot of people don't realize just how effective something like this can be. But the problem is, the truth gets out in drips and drabs, and actually what actually gets out mainly is sensationalism. But that's why people have to market and sensationalize a product a little bit more because it does not get attention. That does not mean it's bad. So if somebody exaggerated a little bit about coconut oil or vitamin C, and I'll tell you what, I don't think vitamin C can be exaggerated because it's beyond what you think. Because it's not a vitamin, it's actually a powerful hormone. I went into like the fact that the animal that uses the most vitamin C per pound, milligrams per kilogram, or milligrams per pound, whatever you want to put it that way, is the goat. And the goat can pretty much eat anything off the freaking ground and never get sick. Even veterinarians will say that the goat is the animal that gets sick the least. That's because it produces vitamin C in its body naturally, but in the highest quantities per pound than anything in the animal world. That's why. But, there's a lot more to it, and, if I put out something about, the Bible states that Noah lived to be 920 years old. Somebody will say that's myth, but maybe it's not myth. I don't think it is myth, to tell you the truth. But there's probably a scientific reason for it besides that, and it may actually have to do with the vitamin C production that might have been capable in humans back then, because we do have all 4 genes to produce vitamin C. One of them is dormant. It's not 100% dormant on all people. So some people actually will never get scurvy, for instance, but they don't have the capability like a goat does. Well, we might have had that capability back in the past. There's a number of things out there that can actually improve the physiology of people. simple things. But, the problem is that people will not gravitate to the absolute truth most of the time. They gravitate to what's sensationalist most of the time. But then again, that does not necessarily mean something that's sensationalist is incorrect. Mostly. It could be slightly exaggerated, but that doesn't necessarily mean it's incorrect. That's the big difference. But I can tell you, the truth actually has been there many times. People used to use baking soda all the time in your household for everything under the sun. Used to brush their teeth with it, never had any problem. Used to wash their clothes with it. You had many medicinal purposes for it. It's been known because not only does it produce carbon dioxide, it also forces the body to produce more oxygen at the same time. And that in itself is a healer. But are people actually doing this today? Nah. You go in a supermarket, where's the baking soda? It's a little tiny box tucked away on a top shelf someplace. It used to be, maybe 100 years ago, baking soda would be in this big, giant 50-pound thing that you would get, and that would supply you for maybe a week or two for the family. That's how it was. But, we have a number of things actually coming up, and I got to tell you that I don't think most of the human race is going to survive just because they're stupid. Monsanto's hitting from one angle. We got vaccinations hitting from another angle. We also have various controls on our lives through electronic means. We got the NSA spying on us and all this other garbage. And people are kind of worried about everything, like with a chicken running around with no head on. But the problem is they don't stop to think exactly about daily practical matters in a true sense, or to examine the situation as a whole. It seems like people will gravitate to fads, giddy rumors, and things like that. But the thing is, somebody would argue way back when that Tesla was a yo-yo with a crazy fad with his AC/DC, and Thomas Edison was laying out the science that it's dangerous and it won't work. I mean, that's an example of a large thing, but then there's large and small. But a lot of times the truth has been out there. As a matter of fact, a lot of these medical devices, like the one I talked about, the violet ray that they labeled a quack device later on, was developed by Nikola Tesla, the same one that gives you gave you the AC/DC electricity, the electric motor, everything we use today. He got shafted basically, but the human race just walked off with whatever he did, and now he's like the buzzword. He was forgotten, but now he's the buzzword. But the thing is that people do not actually stay with the truth. They will actually run away from the truth and run to giddy rumors. And that is why whenever you have to present the truth to somebody, you actually have to market it and sometimes, embellish it slightly. But that doesn't necessarily mean it's not mainly the truth. So, Tesla actually was guilty of this too. He had a lot of sensationalist publicity ops with electricity flying all around his head and stuff like this. And what's he up to? And he talked about he was talking to the Martians or something, or he thought there was radio waves coming from space that could have been coming from another alien race. I don't know. He said a lot of different things, So, he was a little bit of a sensationalist too. Everybody is. Everybody is. But the thing is, he was on the truth. He was definitely far more correct than Thomas Edison. But, when you're looking at these different things, and I'm going to get back to that violet ray device, you'll find that on eBay today as a quack device. But here's a caveat to that, and that was something developed by Thomas Edison, and it was used in the medical field widespread for every type of ailment there was. They still sell it for cosmetic purposes. They'll sell it to help heal blemishes on skin, scars, or things like that, for cosmetic purposes only. And it's still a strong seller since 1952. Even when they declared it the quack device. And you think to yourself, if it can heal on the skin, why couldn't it heal the body? Basically, what it is a dumbed-down, simplistic version of a Tesla coil, which is something like what I talked about, the Georges-Lakhovsky multi-wave oscillator. Other things I talked about that that guy was actually somebody that told you the truth. And people go, people have never, there are not my subscribers. They probably never saw those videos on it. But the Georges-Lakhovsky coil multi-wave oscillator was something that was evaluated in prestigious hospitals in France and Italy, and also one prestigious hospital in New York. It was a miracle healing device. It worked by not destroying pathogens, but by strengthening the body, whereby the body did its natural thing. It basically healed anything because it strengthened the body. It actually reversed AIDS. But Georges-Lakhovsky got run over in 1942 by a limousine in a hit and run that was not even fatal or that damaging, because he wanted to go back to his lab and use his equipment, but they took him to the hospital, and he died 3 days later, and they pulled his device out of the hospital that was working so great. Because it's about money. And you say that's, some people love conspiracies. Well, there are some conspiracies, but then there's giddy rumors conspiracies. I'll state that is, in fact, was a flat-out conspiracy for real. But you're not going to find too many Georges-Lakhovsky devices out there, because we had the disinformation agent called Robert C. Beck, Bob Beck, not Dr. Robert Becker. That's a different person. That's a medical doctor who's legit. I'm talking about Bob Beck, the government contractor, the military ties in with the Defense Department, who created a version of that device that pales in comparison to the real McCoy. But the real McCoy has been rediscovered in Italy, and I actually have the plans for it. So, anyway, the truth is money. It might prevail. Maybe it'll prevail eventually. Maybe it'll prevail eventually. I think it'll prevail with some people, probably the chosen people. That's the way I'll look at it, because I'll leave you with this thought, and maybe this is going to be an unpopular thought. There was a very intelligent, wise man who once said, who was a former president of the United States, one of the earlier presidents, President John Adam, he said that the Hebrew race has absolutely contributed more to the progression and benefit of mankind than any other peoples on this earth. So I'm going to leave you with that thought, but you know what? They're the most persecuted. So I'm going to tell you that, I'm not going to tell everybody everything I know now, because of, I got my eyes woken up again, because I think one time I put a video out on criticizing Peter Duesberg's claims on HIV/AIDS, and he stated that he said it was harmless, and I must have got hit so many times on that video from people that were basically, I don't know what they were, fans of Dr. Peter Duesberg. But you know what? You could state it's beyond ludicrous to actually think that something like that is harmless. HIV/AIDS. But if you're a fan of Dr. Peter Duesberg, you will disagree. So it all comes down to that type of stuff. So anyway, the truth is mighty, and I think it's going to prevail with the chosen people. That's really what it's going to happen. That's where I think it's going to happen. Probably not the entire human race. So, if you curse the chosen people, probably the truth is not going to prevail with you. That's probably the reality of the situation. So, and just like I stick up for the Confederate flag issue, because it's just a flag, and it doesn't necessarily mean a racial issue or anything. Most people don't consider it a racial issue. I will stick up for minority issues too at the same time. So, but I'm not going to give out the entire truth, because I think the human race doesn't actually deserve it, because just how they are. If they'll figure it out, that's the way it is.